I have listened to thousands of addicts tell me their recovery plan. And they have some of the greatest recovery plans that I have ever heard of. Things they're going to do every day, things they're going to make sure they do every week, accountability, all kinds of things. And what I've seen with many of them, and some of you, this might apply to you, is a couple weeks into this fantastic recovery plan, they forget all about it and have a relapse. And so what I have seen over the years is it's easy to set boundaries for ourselves. It's a totally another thing to enforce those boundaries for ourselves. And so we're looking at not just setting healthy boundaries or rules or guidelines, but what are the things that cause me to stop enforcing those very healthy rules that I set for myself? So last week we looked at hooks, and that's where other people hook us into going back to the boundary they want, not the boundary that we set. And tonight I want to give you 8 things that happen inside of us that cause us to change our boundaries from healthy to unhealthy. And so what we're going to find that in setting boundaries for ourselves is that we often are our own worst enemies. And so a lot of people coming into recovery need to be aware of this, because just having a great recovery plan isn't good enough. There are forces at work inside of me that will get me to change my recovery plan back to an unhealthy thing. So the first thing that I want you to think about is things that I would call negative demotivators. And what I mean by that is this. Everybody that I know of who comes into recovery and is serious is motivated to do recovery well. They got energy, they're up every morning, they are going to meetings, they are calling sponsors, they are doing programs, they are super motivated. What they're not prepared for are things that happen to us that cause us to become less and less motivated as the days go by. So there are demotivating forces that are inside of us. So I want to quickly go through some of the main demotivating forces that you probably have encountered. So if you've never figured it out yet, when you're really tired or exhausted, you don't feel like doing boundaries. Oh, snooze button time, not get up and have a quiet time of meditation and getting my head in a good place. So if you are getting more and more tired, you're going to have greater and greater difficulty sticking to the rules, the routine that you have set for yourself that is healthy. Second thing, if you are getting more and more stressed and starting to feel overwhelmed, you begin to fudge on the rules. You begin to say, oh, just for today, I won't bother doing that. Just for today, I'll do that. And before you know it, you're back to your old lifestyle and your old patterns. So stress, be aware of that. 3, if you are depressed. What happens with depression? It creates forces in us that pull us to do the very things that hurt us, not the things that help us. So if you have a schedule to go to meetings and be with people and to get up at the time, if you're depressed, you don't feel like seeing people, you don't feel like going to meetings, you don't feel like getting up. You get very unmotivated. Some aren't aware that certain times of the year play a part in how motivated we are. And if you live in good old Manitoba, you know that this time of the year, for many people, leads to feeling less motivated to do what they know they should be doing. Winter, cold, dark, all of that can have a demotivating effect. Next one, if you are sick or in pain, you don't feel like doing what you normally do. And so you can slip back into old habits. Okay, next one, if you're horny or lonely. I knew you'd like that one. I have so many guys saying, I'm not going to have a relationship for a year. Then they get horny and they forget that rule. And they think, just one night stand, I can control it. Before you know it, they're in a relationship and their recovery is down the toilet. So it doesn't just have to be horny, but just being lonely can cause the same thing inside of you. So think of it this way. What we're going to look at in just a few minutes is brain chemicals. But estrogen and testosterone, do you realize that they have an effect on how motivated you are to stick to boundaries? So if a lady's in PMS and she really struggles with that, boundaries can go out the window. If a guy's got a lot of testosterone that he hasn't released, then boundaries can go out the window. So be aware of those things. Next one is that chemical called oxytocin, where you're in love all of a sudden. And so you meet somebody, you weren't intending to get in a relationship, but the chemistry just feels so right, and forget all the rules. And then, I'm not going to go to my normal number of meetings because we're just going to spend time together and we're going to do recovery together. And I'm not going to call my sponsor because I kind of got a new sponsor, this person in my life. And everything changes. Next one that changes the rules of your life. So, anger. Conflict. Do you realize that when you're angry, you don't care about rules anymore? You can have all kinds of filters in your normal speech, but when you're angry, skip the filters. It's just coming out. And when you're angry or you're in conflict, you go, screw you, I'm going to get drunk at you. And I'm going to hurt you by getting drunk, as if that makes sense. And so boundaries shift in times of anger or conflict, or even if you think of ongoing tension, where it's not getting resolved quickly enough for you, and so you don't like living in that tension, and so after a while you go, I'm out of here. Because you just got to get out of that uncomfortable feeling. So that's all the brain chemical cortisol. So if you got cortisol in your brain, it's going to make you want to forget about rules that you have made for yourself that are healthy. Next one, if you are deeply hurt by somebody and you're just feeling a lot of emotional pain, that can make you just want to forget your normal routine, your normal rules for yourself. It causes you to be demotivated. Next one, too much time alone. I tell clients all the time this. I need time alone. I'm an introvert. I am good spending time alone for 2 to 3 days. After that, if I'm still alone without people contact, I go into a dark place in my head. And if I don't get out of that dark place in a hurry, I can go to a really dark place. And when I'm in a dark place, I don't care about rules. Rules, forget about them. All I want to do is get relief for what I am feeling. So what I want you to see from all of that is this. Loneliness, too much time alone are all about unmet needs that were built into us. We need connection. We're built for healthy connection. So if we don't have that need met in a healthy way, it starts to pull us to meet that need, even if it's in an unhealthy way. And that's when we forget the rules. Next one, you're bored. So we have a need for healthy productivity, healthy activity. So if you have nothing to do and you're sitting around and you get bored, all of a sudden you forget all the healthy rules you made for yourself. Another one, an ongoing stretch of frustration that you can't fix. So you got a problem, you're trying to fix it, it's a frustrating problem, but it's not getting fixed quickly. It might not get fixed for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you go, I don't want to wait that long. And so your brain says, I want relief from this frustration, even if I have to break all the rules. Another demotivator. And then the final one, self-pity. So if you start to feel sorry for yourself when you're having some difficulties and frustrations, and pretty soon you're having a pity party for yourself, which usually has one member attending, which is yourself, and you hold this great pity party, after a while it's skip all the rules, I just want to feel good. So here's what I want you to understand about all of those. Do you realize that every single one of those triggered the limbic part of your brain? They triggered the emotional center of your brain with negative emotions. And so what I want you to understand is you set healthy boundaries in the cortex of your brain. That's the thinking part, the adult part. What is it that gets us to forget those good boundaries that we set with the cortex? It's when our limbic brain trumps our cortex. And so if our limbic brain gets triggered by pain, loneliness, hurt, anger, it says, I want relief now. It thinks like a child in terms of instant gratification. And if you give in to your limbic brain, you will forget the healthy boundaries that you set. So healthy boundaries are defeated by your limbic brain. That's what I want you to see. So sticking to healthy boundaries, which is set in your cortex, is a battle that you have to wage against your limbic brain. And developing the tools and figuring out how to do that so your limbic brain doesn't trump your cortex is a critical piece of recovery. Now let me give you another demotivator. I put up here 2 pluses, plus, minus, minus, plus, minus, minus. Okay? So it's your external world and your internal world. Your external world is the people around you and the circumstances around you. Your internal world is your headspace. Are you in a good place emotionally, intellectually, spiritually? That's your headspace. Okay. Ideal condition is to be in a good internal world and a good external world. Good people around me who are encouraging me, positive supports, good things happening in my life that are encouraging. We all wish for that. We get it at times, but it doesn't last forever. And if you think recovery is going to be positive, positive all the time, think again. The next thing that happens is you can have positive people around you and positive circumstances, but you get into a dark place in your head. You're discontent, you're not satisfied, you're antsy, you're negative, you're critical. That's that negative place. Yet now you're in a bit of danger, because that's when you think about changing your boundaries, or you get less motivated to follow the rules you made for yourself. Third one is your external world is crappy. You got your family around you at Christmas. You got all kinds of things happening. You don't have enough money to buy your kids presents, and you're frustrated, but you're in a good place in your head. Now, have you ever noticed when you're in a good place in your head, you can have lots of bad things happening and it doesn't rock your world? Because you've got some internal rock that is keeping you stable. Okay? But there's still a little bit of danger that if you're in that negative world too much, it might start to affect you negatively. So the fourth one is the very dangerous one. If you get in a negative place and you have positive people, but you're in a really negative place, how do you feel about positive people? You don't like them after a while because they're not saying poor you. So you go looking for other negative people and you create some chaos for yourself. And now you got a negative external world and a negative internal world. When that happens, boundaries go out the window. Okay? So the challenge in early recovery is to understand that if you get number 4 happening, you're in a negative circumstances with negative people, and you're in a negative place in your head, you can't last very long there. I ask clients all the time, if you got the 2 negatives, how long before you relapse? Most say 1 or 2 days is about all they can survive in a negative situation. So, if you find yourself like that, reach out for help quickly. But let me take it further. If you're in a decent headspace, but you realize your external circumstances are negative, and you realize I can't survive too long in negative circumstances, I'm not strong enough yet, you need boundaries with those circumstances. You need boundaries with the negative people. You need to pull away from some of the drama and chaos if you're going to survive. So those are the things that can demotivate you. So with that, what I want you to understand is peer pressure is part of that external world. And so you might want to still hang around with family and friends, but if they're not good for you, you got to be so careful about that, because hanging around with them too much and wanting to be accepted by them and to please them can put you in a demotivated place very, very quickly. Okay. We've talked about the ongoing discontent piece. Most of us can deal with discontent over a day or two, but if we don't find help for our discontent within a couple of days, we can be in trouble. Now, let me add one thing on this. If you are discontent, it creates a pull on you to do certain things and think a certain way, okay? When you're discontent, does it pull you in the direction that says you need to get reconnected to your higher power? No, it usually says, what's the greatest distraction I can find right now? And you don't do the very things that you need to do. So discontent pulls you away from the very things you should be doing. Be aware of that. Okay, that's the first one. The next ones will go a little bit faster. So we have demotivators and lots of them. Be aware of them. Second thing that can actually cause us to change our boundaries is when we're feeling great. Do you realize that for many people in recovery, feeling good is more dangerous than feeling bad? Because in feeling bad, you're very aware that you're vulnerable and you're in trouble and you need help. When you're feeling good, you can go, I don't need to work so hard. Or, I feel so good, let's celebrate. Let's throw a party. Or, I feel so good, let's go shopping. I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that, because I'm feeling great. And then afterwards you go, I made some impulsive decisions that I can't take back, but I sure regret. Another thing that can happen when people are feeling good, and it happens at a subconscious level, is your brain says you don't deserve to feel this good. Let's sabotage your recovery so that you mess everything up again, because that's all you deserve. So feeling good can be a very dangerous thing. Number 3, complex trauma, underlying issues. If you don't deal with your underlying complex trauma issues, you probably won't stick to the boundaries you set for yourself. Just a couple of examples. If you haven't begun to deal with shame, that means you're still probably afraid to say no when people ask you to do something, because you're afraid they'll be mad at you or they'll reject you. And so all of a sudden you're changing your boundaries because people said, could you help us out? Could you do this? And you do it, and then you got to give up your normal routine and you're in big trouble. So if you don't deal with shame, you're not going to stick to boundaries. Secondly, if you don't deal with all that guilt, because what all that guilt is saying is, let's keep beating ourselves up. You don't deserve a good life, and you tear yourself down. Third one, if you continue to be afraid that you'll be abandoned, then you change your boundaries when you're in relationships just so people don't abandon you, and you don't follow good boundaries. Next one, if you're still addicted to chaos, you somehow need chaos to feel alive, to get the adrenaline going, then you change your boundaries. Another piece with all of that is all of those issues that are underlying, if they get triggered, trigger your limbic brain. So we got another limbic brain thing. Number 4, if you're still with me, mental health issues. So just think about this. If you're in a good place in your head, you kind of have a natural bubble. So how close you let people into your space. You understand what I'm talking about? Okay, what happens when you're depressed? What happens to your bubble? Now, some people, your bubble gets super big. You don't want anybody around you. Other people, your bubble gets smaller because you get super needy. But what happens when your bubble changes? Your boundaries change. And so people that struggle with depression, anxiety, always are feeling pulled to change their boundaries to suit what they're feeling. What does depression, anxiety affect in the brain? Your limbic brain. So once again, be aware of one more thing that affects your limbic brain. Next one. Excuse me. If you haven't been here for the 5 people inside me, you can watch it online or on YouTube, but we talk about coming out of complex trauma. There are basically 5 separate brain circuits inside of you. And if those brain circuits get triggered, it's like a different person comes out. So in recovery, if you're in a good place, there's the adult you. You're making good decisions. You're being honest, respectful, etc. Excuse me. If you relapse, it triggers that part of your brain, and it's like a totally different you comes out. All of a sudden, you're lying, you're not reliable, you're self-centered, you're a narcissist, a totally different personality. So we talk about those 5 circuits. Okay, the first 4 are this: the addict you if you relapse. Second one we talked about, mental health you. And then the third one is the traumatized you. So if your trauma gets triggered, and all of a sudden you get very demanding or needy, or you just lash out at everybody, or you want to hide and isolate, you go into fight or flight. Your boundaries change, or if that little wee child that's been hurt gets triggered, your boundaries change. So what I want you to see is those first 4 all are limbic brain triggers, and all pull you towards unhealthy boundaries. So if the addict gets triggered, the traumatized gets triggered, the healthy recovery plan, the healthy rules you set for yourself get forgotten all about. So be aware of those other forces inside of you. Now here's the discouraging part of that. If you look at those 5 people inside of you, the healthy one is the adult, but in most people in early recovery, it's the weakest one of the people inside of you. And so what recovery and setting boundaries is the adult you fighting against 4 negative forces that want unhealthy boundaries. And so it's a battle against powerful forces. Next one, we've talked about some of the brain chemicals. Cortisol, we talked about, oxytocin, estrogen, testosterone. Let me give you a couple others. If you get dopamine, that's the feeling great pleasure. Boundaries change. Serotonin, you're feeling all warm and fuzzy emotionally. Boundaries change. So brain chemicals, be aware of what's happening inside of you. Okay, Two more to go. And, excuse me, we're going to get this sorted out. You know what happens when I go on vacation? I don't talk for 3 weeks. So always the first night back, my vocal cords go, what in the world are you doing to us here? Okay, the first night, Kayla talked about boundaries like guardrails on a mountain road. So if you look at that mountain road as being healthy behavior, so you have healthy food stuff. If you go outside the guardrails, you fall off the edge of the cliff. That's unhealthy use of food. You can put sex in there. You can put relationships in there. You can put all of the different parts of life. There's healthy behaviors, or we can do it in unhealthy ways, okay? The guardrails are what keep us safe, and those are the rules we make for ourselves, our boundaries, our internal boundaries. Now, there's this interesting thing that we call temptation. And if you're not aware of it, the root of the word temptation actually is about a fish or a worm on a hook. So think about a worm on a hook, and you're just an innocent little fish swimming by. All of a sudden you go, oh, I'm hungry. There's a worm. It promises me a delicious meal. Now stop and back away from that. What did that fisherman just do to you? He lied to you. That worm is a lie. It is promising you a great big wonderful meal, but it is going to deliver to you death, because you're going to get caught by the hook underneath. So what it is saying is this: when you're walking down that highway safely within the guardrails, there's all these fish hooks outside the guardrails with juicy worms on them saying, come out here and just use food the wrong way today, or sex the wrong way today. You'll enjoy it. There won't be any consequences. And you say, okay. And you're hooked. And you're now a prisoner headed towards a slaughterhouse. That's temptation. Stop and think of it this way. What does the worm appeal to in your brain? Instant gratification. Your limbic brain. And so again, our culture is full of hooks with worms on them. All around us saying, oh, you can just do it this once. Nothing bad will happen. And you know one of the reasons I'm thankful that addiction works the way it does? Because it exposes the lie of a worm on a hook. Because all of you have bitten that worm, and it looked like it gave you a wonderful meal, and then you were hooked, and it destroyed your life. So those temptations still might be drugs and alcohol, but there'll be other things, other types of worms on the hook. Okay, let me take that further. Let's say you're walking down that road and you're doing what you said you're going to do. You're keeping your rules. But there's like 50 worms on a hook in one day. Something happens up that morning when you got up. You were single-minded in your commitment to recovery, to getting healthy, to living a healthy life. But those 50 worms got you split-minded. Part of your brain is saying, I want to stay clean and sober. Part of your brain is saying, I wonder what that worm would taste like. I wonder if I could get away with that. Maybe I'll just think about the worm for a little bit. And you entertain the selective memories of the last time you ate that worm. And what happens once you get double-minded? Pretty soon, you're not wholehearted anymore. So now you get up in the morning still to have your meditation time, but your heart's not in it. You're just going through the motions. And before you know it, you relapse. So you don't go from walking down the middle of the road to a relapse in one step. You go by looking at a hook with a nice worm on it, becoming double-minded, then not being wholehearted, and then losing motivation. Be aware of that dangerous, dangerous pattern. Final one, the Siren song. It's one of my favorite stories. I don't know if you've heard it, but the Siren were mermaids. And it's a Greek myth, and these Siren women, they were on the coastline of an island in the Mediterranean, and they had the most beautiful voices in the world. And they sang this beautiful, enchanting song. And what happened is ships that were sailing near the island, is the sailors would hear that beautiful song, and they would feel attracted to it, pulled to it. And they couldn't resist it. And they would go towards that song, and their ships would crash on the rocks, and they would shipwreck. And so the myth of the Siren song was this. It was an alluring utterance of appeal, especially one that is seductive or deceptive, much like a temptation. But I take it a little bit further. I want you to think about this. Some of you would say the thing that sings the most beautiful song to you, that has attracted you and pulled you to crash on the rocks, has been drugs and alcohol. But some of you, if you stopped and thought about it, would say, no, the most alluring song to me isn't necessarily drugs and alcohol, it's the lifestyle. That's what pulls me, or it's the friends that I hung around with. That's what pulls me. So here's what the sailors did. They said, we have to find a way to stop being seduced by the Siren song because we're crashing and destroying all of our ships. What can we do? So they tried all kinds of other things in order to stop. So they made all kinds of rules for themselves, boundaries. But the song was so powerful, they broke all the boundaries. Until one day, a sailor said this, I have an idea. I am going to write a more beautiful song. And when we're getting close to the island, we're going to play the more beautiful song, and it will trump the Siren song. And here's what I want you to understand. In recovery, you need boundaries. But you need a new song that's more beautiful than the Siren song. Because there's going to be temptations, yes, but there's going to be the Siren song of the old life that's going to keep tugging at you at times, especially when you're weak. And if you don't have a more beautiful song that you're regularly singing in your life, and that could be your family, it could be a friend, it could be God, it could be all kinds of different things, you have to find that more beautiful song that begins to trump the power of the Siren song. So those are 8 additional things that set us up to disregard our boundaries. Now let me end by saying this. Do you realize that your recovery at some point will boil down to doing what you don't want to do on days you don't feel like doing it? Doing what you know you should do even though you don't feel like it. Getting out of bed at the same time even though you want to sleep in. Having a quiet time even though you don't feel like it. Going to a meeting even though you don't feel like it. Recovery at some point will boil down to doing what you want to do, what you need to do but don't feel like doing. And your success ultimately will boil down to that time. So I hope this helps you have greater self-awareness as you move forward.